This is a golden time for the jungle queen right now. People
Jungle
are
fire!
give me some of that. Give me some of that jungle fire energy. I need that.
You can only get it IRL. Jay Sabra, you're the founder of Executive Leap. You're doing a lot with social learning for founders. I'll let you talk more about that. And what really strikes me is that you're doing the most of any coach, who I know anyway, to harness the power of nature. We've had many past interesting conversations about the intersection of nature and technology. And we've also discussed your interest between the humanities and technology. And I love that those intersectional conversations where two extremes collide and just discussing what happens. I love to start with the same question every time. We are remote right now. You're in the UK. I'm in Belize. What do you think would change if we were physically in the same space right now?
I would say the whole vibe would be different. Because I'm different in person, like those people where we say, "Hey, I'm better in person." It's not necessarily better in person, but I'm totally different. My whole vibe is different when I'm in the same zone or space with someone. It's just a different level of connection. The energy is different. We'd be joking, we'd be laughing, we'd be being sarcastic, and yeah, and maybe this is a personal preference, but to me, I am an in-person person. I'm not a technology person. I'm not one for Zoom calls. I'm not one for remote working. I only do the whole tech shtickle.
I love
I don't
that
know if
word.
I don't know if I can use that here. I only use the whole tech thing to really make a living, to survive, and maybe thrive a little bit. But to me, I'm all about real world experiences, and I always think to the exact to when someone said there was research and studies that say, the heart emanates at a frequency when you're in the presence with someone, they are able to feel it. So there's like a electromagnetic field around 3 meters in radius and distance. Um, we can go through a whole nerd out on this. I'm a huge nerd when it comes to that stuff, but this is it, and I can feel it. It's scientifically proven, and I can feel it, and I can get behind it.
I love that. We could nerd out for a long time about that, but it's true. We carry an aura, don't we? And it's chemically proven, essentially.
Yeah, you can feel it, and you can you can sense it. And this is where, when you're sitting across from someone, there's so much stuff you're processing, so much stuff. Like, our brains are super fast, super capable machines. If I'm sitting across from you, I'm watching your hand movement, your body language, your skin color, how it's changing, your face expressions. All of this is information and data that's going in real time. The video call is like 20% of that, like mere words. So that's to me, that's an incomplete form of communication.
I also think something changes a lot when you share the same space, when you're sharing the same environment. It's a different time of the day for us. You're wearing a sweater. When you share that same space, the commonalities increase without any type of effort.
Yeah, and I would much rather be where you are. I love that background, by the way. And, as I was saying to you, like, that's my natural habitat, right? If I'm walking in the city or anywhere, and this is why I love Madrid so much. There's so much park space and green space. I'd be walking in the city with my friends or someone, and and I would just stop and take my shoes off, and I want to walk on the grass, and people start looking at me like, "What the hell is he doing?" You know. But um, nature is the original connector. You know. I think a lot of people might talk about grounding and all that stuff, but these are things which are embodied and not spoken about. You know, someone might come out and say, "Oh yeah, I do grounding and I do meditation and I do this and that." But when you embody those things, when you are part of nature, you're always being in nature, you're meditating, you're a breath work practitioner, you don't have to talk about it. You don't have to flex it. You know, you can just embody that.
Ask me about my swim in the lake in Central Park one time. I got a lot of looks for that. You know, there's an irony because working remotely is what allows me to be in Belize full time, or at least it has
Mm.
for the last decade as a tech marketer. And being more embodied is actually it's been wonderful, a wonderful journey for me to transition away from such a digital world into more embodiment. But nonetheless, working remotely is here to stay, especially in media, especially in tech. And so it really, and increasingly, teams are remote, founders are remote. And so that really begs that question, what changes when founders are working remotely and actually get together in person in an intentional way?
Wow. There's so much to unpack there. First of all, you know, working remotely, absolutely. It's created like this amazing opportunity for people to have more autonomy and freedom to work from anywhere. So that's really great. But I will also say on that point that technology can go too far, like everything else, like anything else. You know, anything has this cycle of being beneficial, and it goes so much, it becomes intrusive and invasive. But that's a different story. When it comes to people getting together, to me, that's where great ideas come out. That's where
Mm.
amazing things are created, are made. Um, and this is really why I created Executive Leap, you know, cheeky plug. I have to,
Bring it.
you know, it's you know, Executive Leap is the embodiment of all the things that I care about that I'm passionate about. And one of the most amazing memories that I have in COVID, I was going through my divorce and going through a very difficult time. I was so grateful and lucky to live in a co-living place where I met like-hearted people. We started having these conversations about the topics that I'm really interested in. We're interested in similar topics. We started, you know, having these amazing conversations and dinner parties, which were so much fun. And to me, that's my dream vision. You know, to me, like the whole ethos of Executive Leap is to create that environment for people to really experience the power of being in the presence of like-hearted people.
I love that word like-hearted. I haven't heard that. I've heard like-minded. It's beautiful.
It's intentional. I picked it up recently. I was like, you know, I want to find the right statement of my dream vision. You know, and someone told it to me. I was like, that is so deep, and it's much more intentional and meaningful than like-minded, because to me, you know, there's a meaning behind it. It's not a buzzword. When I say like-hearted, it's a thing of the soul. Okay, It's something when you connect with people, you feel like a different type of connection. It's about the heart. It's about what you love and your journey and your maybe the journey of your soul, but also um, the things that you care about. These are matters of the heart. They're not just matters of the mind. You know, so it's really about being with like-hearted people.
Minds can connect digitally better than hearts can, I feel like. Through the ether, the mind can connect, maybe, right? But can the heart connect? Can you connect with like-hearted people if you're not in real life?
I love that. Well, okay, so I see you, you know, you're kind of seeing both sides. I mean, no means wanting to paint working remotely as the villain or something that
No.
is wrong, you know? But I'm very biased. I'm very biased to in person, you know? And sometimes I'm actively hating of like excessive use of technology because it
Mhm.
has its place. It has its place, and I think it's gone too far, and people are realizing that. But maybe we can. That's a different conversation. Can we connect heart to heart over digital to a certain extent? Yes, because you know, ironically, I met my ex-wife on Facebook. You know, so we connected because we went to the same uni in Lebanon, and I saw that she went to the same school, and I was like having conversation with her. That evolved into a continuous conversation, and she ended up joining me in London. So we had an awesome, you know, kind of escalation of the relationship, and I felt like we connected. From the fact that she's my ex-wife, that there was different reasons why we ended that, you know. But I felt I've had a lot of friendships or even romantic relationships which started online first. But I will say one thing, funny enough, the best relationships and friendships that I've had, I will say the best romantic relationships I've had were from real life starters, real life engagements and starters. I did meet my business partner on Facebook, and he's like the most amazing business partner, the most amazing person I get the pleasure to work with. But I'm still biased to the in-person experience.
I find that hybrid, and I don't mean return to office hybrid, but intentional IRL in a hybrid sense can be extremely impactful because if you've spent much of your time digitally working together, collaborating, getting to know each other, even if it's only a few days or a week, that time spent IRL is much more meaningful and much more impactful because there is that history there already built. And so it's like a supercharged kind of time, actually. And I find that's very true for you brought up a romantic example, but it's very true for teams.
Yeah, sorry about the TMI there. I feel I feel like you're, you know, this is more maybe more about work context. Um, you know, it's funny because I've been talking to different companies about jobs here, and a lot of these companies will say, "We want you 3 days a week in the office," you know, and some of them will say, "We want you 5 days a week in the office," and I'm like, "Well, that ain't gonna work," you know. No matter how much you pay me, and I've kind of been in positions where I really needed a job, but I was like, is this worth the sacrifice? Like, am I able to sacrifice my freedom for this level of salary? I'm like, it's come to a place where there's no number that they can pay me where I can say, yeah, I commit to this brainless sort of commute to the office just because your policy says that I have to be on site 5 days a week. Whereas in the past, you know, before COVID, we used to work in a way where I would choose when I can be in the office, you know, and that, you know, props to that company that I worked for. It's one of the not like most popular companies. It's in terms of size, but we had autonomy on that. It was up to us, and that speaks to the trust, right? Like, are you trusted to make a decision and make a judgment? Like, okay, do I have to be on site today? Let's do it. If not, I'm just gonna do my thing and work remotely.
I'm very biased, but intentional IRL is probably one of the most, let's say, efficient, because we love that word, right? In the corporate world. One of the most efficient ways to build trust in ways that can enable that remote setup without any type of, let's just say, management insecurity. Ooh, what do I mean by intentional IRL? I mean everything but return to office mandates, probably. Let's say you're a manager, you run a team, you're on a department. It's not practical. It's increasingly less practical to get your entire team together 5 days a week for many different reasons. And your talent pool is also severely shrunk that way. So you're remote. You've made a business decision to be remote. 1 week a quarter, 1 week a year, anything that's a non-zero number is going to be intensely impactful for that team building and that trust building and the way that your team operates in the rest of the year. I've lived that experience because I've worked on so many different remote teams, and the ones that meet in person, I still keep in touch with those people. The ones
Mm.
that never met in person, I'm not gonna say I don't keep in touch with them, but there's a correlation there that I will attribute to directly to that. And so for team leaders, there's that hybrid model where there's not actually many hours spent IRL, but they're very impactful because they're designed, they're intentional. They're not just another Zoom meeting, right? And that leads me actually to my next question for you. When founders spend time with their teams in person, when different departments or different groups mix, when teams with different dynamics, or when founders get together, only founders, there's a lot of dynamics here we could examine, and we're not going to pick apart each one. But what changes when collaborators get together, especially founders and their team who may not see each other in person much at all, if ever?
As you said, it takes the relationship to the whole new level. You talked about the colleagues that you never saw in person. I had a similar experience in my last corporate job because they gave me a special deal where I got to work remotely and I didn't have to come into the office. But then when I left the job, it's like none of them existed. We didn't even talk or anything. Whereas in previous jobs, I met people, we used to go out for drinks and all that. And it's like you build long lasting relationships. So the shelf life of a
Mm.
relationship that is only in the premise of a remote job, it can be a lot shorter. Um, but I would say if you're talking about founders and their teams, in my opinion, it's a must-have. It's not even optional. Like, say what you will about Elon Musk. No one's perfect, but I really like the fact that he forced everyone to come into the office when X was going through a sensitive transition, because that's sensitive time. So sometimes you have to do it. And you know here we go, like, this is us seeing things from the other side. It's not always about just working remotely and everyone's like super distributed and so on. Like, sometimes you want to be in the same room, so it has its time, and it's necessary, especially if you are getting started as well. as a, as an early stage founder. I think it's important, but I would say it's more of a personal preference as well. Is it doable with a fully distributed team? Sure. I know many, like, VC funded startups who started fully remote and they're still fully remote. I don't know how they do it, but it ain't my kind of thing. That's not my vibe. I don't want to do it this way.
For IRL to be intentional, to be truly intentional, the goal setting around that time together does matter. How might a founder think about goal setting to maximize the return from time spent together?
Setting the intention for intentional IRL.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like to use the word intention, and that's a no-brainer, right? Even outside of IRL, like even if you're having a meeting or workshop with your colleagues, every time box needs to have an intention or an expected outcome. Otherwise, why the heck are you even doing that? Yeah, we can sit and chat and talk, but when it comes to work, you gotta chop some wood, you gotta make progress. So the best way to make you like that, you love that, chop
Love that.
chop wood. Oh,
Love
talk dirty to me, baby. Okay.
You're speaking my ancestral language right now.
Well, my business partner and I, we have a very primitive glossary, I would say. We kind of like, we're very Shakespearean in that way. I like to keep it basic. We're both rooted in history and sophistication, and we're so fascinated by history and previous civilizations. So kind of like our whole glossary is around that. But yeah, going back to the point I was talking about, intention and a set outcome is really what defines progress, because if you fail to plan, you plan to fail, basically. So we're all for being spontaneous. Also, like spontaneity has its place. But when it comes to bringing people in person, there's a lot of logistics there, as you said. There's effort, there's costs, there's logistical considerations. So it's important to have a clear intention, a clear outcome. Like, hey, this is why we're getting together. This is what I would like to do, and uh, so that's the tactical part. But there's also an energetic part as well, as you say, the second order effect. That's, to me, that's the energetic aspect. So when you get people together for whatever purpose, even if it's just a team building exercise, you will find that they will have energy to be productive for the rest of the week, and they're flowing, they're vibing, they're jamming, and that's really how I feel. That's how I feel when I get together with someone, with a group of friends, or friends, or my colleagues. I feel that energy and that drive to perform better. So that's the energetic impact of it as well.
That goes back to what you were saying earlier about, we have a chemical aura, right? So when you mix those, interesting things happen.
And unexpected things happen as well. Sometimes you might be in presence with someone and you don't even have to say shit. Excuse my French. Um, you can just feel it. You can just feel the other person sitting there. And I'm all about the unseen and the unspoken. I mean, don't even get me started. Um, my thesis is that language is very limited, and we as humans are gonna evolve eventually to have more sophisticated forms of communication. But yeah, that's a story for a different show.
Let's flip the script. I want you to say something totally unhinged about connecting in real life.
I thought I've been unhinged this whole freaking thing. Here's something unhinged. More and more people are gonna start, the whole reason why people are already talking about mental health crisis. Why do you think that is? Like, seriously, why do you think that is?
Not enough trees around. Too
Yes,
little time in nature, too much concrete.
too much concrete, too much phone and screens. It's an unknown. Like, sometimes we know there's something wrong, but we have no idea why. And ever since I used to commute in the train, I would see 9 people out of 10 on their phone every single day in the morning. What do you think that does to the brain? Where our nervous systems are fried. We don't have any energy left to communicate. And to me, what's missing for people is that human interaction, the human connection. But the problem is people forget what it feels like. They forget what it feels like to connect with someone in person, and they're spending their whole ecosystem is managed by technology. Are we still connected?
I'm right here, baby.
Yeah. So so people are losing touch with purpose and meaning because of the side effect of excessive use of technology. So we're going to see a time of a major shift back to IRL. This is a golden time for the jungle queen right now. People
Jungle
are,
fire!
give me some of that. Give me some of that jungle fire energy. I need that.
You can only get it IRL. You can only get the full strength dosage IRL.
Uh,
I want to push on that point a bit because I agree with you, but I also believe that setting matters.
mhm.
Is a human connection on the subway the same as a human connection leaning against a tree together?
Oh, fuck no. Fuck no. Absolutely not. The power of nature, where is it? Where does it, as I said, it's the original connector. So when we connect with nature, is we connect with our ancestors. There's like billions and gazillions data points and memory that is saved and maintained by nature. It's all in the nature is like a compilation of memory. So when you touch a tree, when you touch a part of nature, you're plugging into that matrix of nature, the your history as a human being, your journey. You're kind of reminded of who you are. But if you do it intentionally and consciously, because when I touch a tree, I'm thinking how foolish we can be sometimes, thinking that we are more important than these creatures. Like, this tree is standing there providing value every single minute of every single day, providing value, oxygen. There's something very powerful about this. But another side of this, there's something very primitive about being in nature as well. It kind of like, clicks, it hits some muscles in your brain or body that you didn't even know existed.
It removes some identities. It removes some modern identities that you carry, or at least it makes them puts them in the background a bit for a little while.
The masks.
Can you say something even more unhinged?
I really enjoy having sex in nature. That's
Yes.
it's the best. This is what I mean about it being primitive. There's nothing like having sex in nature. Nothing. I've never experienced anything like it. It's the best thing.
I love it. On that note, now we both have to get up and leave the screen and go back to IRL.
Let's go.
A lot of fun, Jay Sabra. Talk soon. Bye.
I don't need foreplay or anything like that. I just
I do. Ah,
and
that's just
that,
good.
ladies and gentlemen, is the difference between men and women. Done. That's it.
And there's the
That's it.
B-roll. There's the B-roll. Thank you very much.